now is Democratic Congressman Marc Veasey of Texas. He is co-sponsoring a law enforcement reform bill called the Justice in Policing Act of 2020. His district includes parts of Dallas and Fort Worth. Congressman, good evening.
Hi, Joshua.
Regarding the bill that you're co-sponsoring, would any of its provisions have prevented Rayshard Brooks's death?
I think that it would have, because I think that by establishing uniform standards on how police are supposed to conduct themselves, I think that it would send a message to states and the local law enforcement officials that they need to clean up their act or they can be held accountable. And this bill would hold them accountable from a criminal standpoint and from a civil standpoint by getting rid of immunity that police have and that which shields them from being held responsible for shootings and for people being brutalized.
With regard to some of that shielding, New York recently passed police reform legislation, including unsealing police misconduct records. Colorado just passed a wide-ranging measure, one of the most comprehensive in the country so far as we can tell. How much of this effort do you think states need to lead, and how much of it should Congress lead?
We need to see sweeping federal bills. I don't think there's any question about this. I mean, you look at where we see incidents of police brutality and unjustified killings happening, and they're happening in places like Minnesota and Texas, two states that are political opposites as far as being a red state versus a blue state, but yet they're occurring, and the common denominator is that is black men who are being victimized. And so by having a federal standard, I think that will be good. Of course, I do think that states, I was in the state legislature before I was in Congress. I also think the state legislatures should look at what they could do to make all their citizens feel safe. I used to serve on the public safety committee when I was in the Texas legislature and worked on a lot of these issues. And our state really does have a lot of work to do. We're really behind here, but by having a federal standard, it would make us catch up. And it will make other states catch up, and then the states could come in and fill in where need be.
Where do you see the most common ground, realistically, for bipartisanship here?
For bipartisanship, I do think that we're going to see a lot of bipartisanship when it comes to ending chokeholds. I don't think that there's any question about that. I think that people realize, regardless of where they may happen to be politically, that we need to end chokeholds. I think that transparency. I think that we need to work on transparency and bringing more transparency, like databases, so you can follow whether or not a police has committed crimes or abused people in other states, so they can't go from different states or different municipalities from job to job. And so I think that there are some areas, and I think even for immunity, I think that that there's going to be opportunities for us to perhaps work with Republicans on ending immunity and holding police departments accountable for when they do use deadly acts or when they brutalize citizens, and hold them accountable. Because really, right now, there's nothing that can be done. When you see a police force oftentimes settle with a family of someone that's been wrongfully killed, it's often because the police just want that problem to go away. It's not because there was any course of action they could take in the law, and that needs to change.
Yeah, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has said that he supports a ban on chokeholds, so that may well be a place where both sides can come together. Now, President Trump was in Texas on Thursday for a roundtable with law enforcement and faith leaders and small business owners in Dallas. That group did not include the police chief or the sheriff or the district attorney, all three of whom are black. Now, the White House insisted that the president still heard a diversity of views. Despite that, do you believe that this administration can help bring about the kinds of reforms that you want to see?
I would like for them to bring about the type of reforms that I would like to see. I don't think that President Trump has it in him to do reforms. I mean, he's just really sort of vaguely talked about police brutality, police shootings, the incidents that have just occurred. He hasn't really gone into any specifics about what he would do, but I'm hoping that Republicans in the legislative branch, in the House and Senate, can put pressure on him because, as you can see by polls, the public is moving in the direction of, hey, we need to do something about this. Now that these incidents are being videoed and it's not individual's word versus the police's word, you're starting to see segments of society that never believed in police brutality, understanding that this is really a problem, and this is a problem for Black men in this country. And I hope that they will put pressure on the president to move in the right direction on this. But I don't think that he personally has a clue.
Congressman Marc Veasey of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Congressman, thanks for making time for us.